Hello, everyone, and welcome to Z Talk. It's good to see you all again after a little hiatus that I had here recently. Um, but we're back in the saddle. And today I have my friend and colleague, Nate Aiman-Smith, and he is the owner of RunAsCloud. So I wanted Nate to kind of kick it off by introducing himself and let everybody here in my network know about Nate and who he is. So Nate, my friend, you have the floor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Henry. It's great to be talking to you. Great to see you back. About me. My name is Nate Aiman-Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of RunAsCloud. And I guess my life story in a nutshell, or in a very short version, would be I'm originally from California, Northern California. Went down to Southern California for college and stayed there. And got my first job in a software company. Relatively early on, around the dot-com boom and the turn of the millennial. And then moved to New York a few years later in the early 2000s, made my bones there. And I loved New York, loved working there, very, very high standard, and got to work in some really interesting companies doing some interesting things. I had originally started as a system administrator, and then kind of made my niche of really helping developers and empowering developers, trying to make it so they could focus on code and not have to focus on anything else. And effectively, I was doing DevOps before there was a term DevOps, but really focusing on a lot of automation and efficiencies within that whole development lifecycle process. And worked at NBC Universal as the lead infrastructure architect there, and then created and managed the DevOps department at NBC Universal before I ended up going to Amazon Web Services. And I worked at AWS as a solutions architect. When EC2 first came out in public beta, which was in 2008, believe it or not, I went to the CTO of NBC. I said, "This is a game changer. We got to do this, right?" And he said, "I love this. I love this idea. We just spent a few $1 million in infrastructure, so it's not happening today. But let's see if we can start get that going." And I kept pushing for that. And then I was, really happy to end up working at AWS in New York and help lead that front. And after a few years there, I left AWS and wanted to start something on my own. Did some freelancing for a little while, and while I was doing that, I realized I don't have any customers that I ever have to actually go see. Like, this is all remote, and I live in a place that's really expensive, and I have 2 small children, and it's really cold, and I haven't been able to go outside in like 3 or 4 months. And why am I physically here? And my wife and I said, like, well, where else could we be? And we both like, Miami. So I came here by choice about 4 years ago, and I've been here ever since. And we haven't really done a whole lot of work in Miami, but I'm hoping to make some progress in the town that's now my home.
So then you founded a company called RunAsCloud.
Yes.
So my first question is, how did you come up with RunAsCloud? I'm just
No, that's so the way I first came up with it was, there was actually a friend of mine who I was going to start this up with as a partnership, and then he's actually an engineer at Google now, but RunAs was a sort of amalgamation of our names. I mean, my initials, Nate Aiman-Smith, is NAS, right?
okay.
And his name started with RU. And then it occurred to me, this is even better, because I don't know if you ever had to do this, but in Windows, there's a functionality of to do something as a different user, right? So you would say, I want to run this command. So a lot of times we'll have like run as administrator, right?
Yeah.
And that command is officially called run as. So I thought, oh, this is perfect because this is run as cloud, right? So the idea of like doing the things that you were doing before, but doing it as the cloud. Nobody gets the joke. I mean, like, literally, I've had one person say, "Oh, run as cloud. That is really clever." I'm like, well, thank you, right?
Well,
Everybody,
yeah, I can
no one
see
else knows. Yeah, and about 1 person out of 3 says, "So run as a cloud. What is that?" I'm like, "It's run as cloud because
Right.
it's a." But
It's a play on some words there.
exactly, it's a play on that Windows functionality that apparently nobody remembers except me. But I like the name, and so we've stuck with it.
And you formed the company when? A few years ago?
Yeah, so it's a little. I mean, I formed the company really just to be my LLC for my work, whatever that was going to
Right.
be, right? And so that was freelancing for a while, just me. And then I thought, well, I'd really like to actually start something a little bit bigger than just me bouncing around from contract to contract. And so we kicked into gear around 2017, so about 3 years now.
Okay.
That the company's really been operating as a cloud consultancy.
Okay. And so as RunAsCloud, what type of work do you guys do there? As like what's your core competency there? What
Sure.
makes you guys exciting, and why people will turn to you?
Well, the overall story or the overall goal of RunAsCloud is that we are a cloud strategy consultancy, but full top-down experience. And what I mean by that is we can work alongside the executive leadership and help define the path. But how are you going to use the cloud in your business? Not just what you're going to do today, but what do you want to do tomorrow? And sometimes, there are many things that could prompt us sort of coming into the conversation. One is just a change in leadership. Where a new CIO or CTO says, look, we want to modernize everything. I know we need to be in the cloud to do it. How are we going to get there? And a lot of the time that starts with, here's my big vision. Here's all the things I want to do right now. What's that going to look like when we get there? And this is where we are right now. How do we get from here to there? So being able to craft that plan, some of it can also just be, as opposed to like this whole, like, I'm going to shake things up and turn everything around. It could also be just, look, we need to run this business a little bit better. And especially in this time of COVID, it could be, we need to be more efficient. We need to be tighter, and we need to be able to optimize at every single opportunity. So how are we going to get there? But the overall plan of RunAsCloud is, have that executive conversation. Where are we going? How are we going to use the cloud to get there? And then from there, we can create the technical objectives that map to those business objectives, create the software architectures that are going to do all of that and build those software architectures. So the full top-down experience, including knowledge transfers, handoffs, maintenance, MSP services that customer would want with their cloud experience.
So from a cloud perspective, your focus is AWS. You have other technologies also.
We do both. We do, or both, right? I mean, theoretically, there's AWS, there's Azure, there's Google Cloud Platform, and Oracle. I think GCP and Oracle are kind of non-stars. It's not they don't exist. I just don't think they're necessarily in for the long haul. AWS has historically been the number one by far. If you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrants, right, they're always like way up there in the top right. Azure has been catching up in a big way. And we have had a couple of customers that wanted to be multi-cloud. They started in AWS, they become very mature in AWS, and they said, well, now we, for various reasons, we need to be able to support both AWS and Azure. So we've expanded our skill set to include Azure as well. And at this point, I think we can talk pretty fluently about both. I came from AWS, so
Right.
when I'm talking, it tends to be more focused on AWS, but we definitely work with both AWS and Azure.
That's awesome. So speaking of cloud, I guess one of the concerns that CIOs and even executives have out there is security and cost. Those are like 1 and 2, 2 and 1, doesn't matter, but they're both in the conversation. Obviously, security based on our climate and based on all these foreign actors and things that go on out there. I know security is probably the top, but cost is right there a close second. So tell us about, give us some comfort about around security and cost around these things.
Well, security is a big topic of mine, right? I've always been interested in security. I've always worked in it to some extent. I never brand myself as a security specialist per se, but I have that kind of hacker mentality. I'm always looking for the hole in the system. Even things as silly as, I don't know, like when you're trying to, I don't know, like wait in line at IKEA or something, right? For something, I'm saying, a person could really easily, like, they're not even checking that. I could just walk up right there and say I'm number 396, as long as I, say call number 396. Nobody's walking up. I can just go up there and say I'm 396, right? So I'm always looking for like that loophole or that way that the system can be broken and how that could be fixed. That having been said, my CTO is a CISSP. We have multiple security certifications, so we're into it, and we think about it a lot. So securing the cloud is a concern that gets expressed a lot, right? And what that really comes down to a lot of time is, I feel like I'm not going to have control over the entire thing, as opposed to, is it secure? And the most important thing to know about security in the cloud is that there's a dividing line, and there's a shared responsibility between the customer and the cloud provider, and one of them cannot do the job of the other. They both have to do their jobs. And so it's typically defined as security of the cloud and security in the cloud.
Gotcha.
So if you're using AWS or Azure, right, Microsoft or Amazon is responsible for, let's say, just the physical security of those data centers, right? Who's allowed to access them? How do we know that you don't have any bad actors going in and accessing them? In the case of GovCloud or Azure Gov, how do we confirm that those people are U.S. citizens who have the proper clearance to deal with, potentially FedRAMP high materials? That is their job, and they have, multiple audits and certifications and attestations that they do it. But you as the customer don't have any control over it. One question we used to get all the time when I worked at AWS is, can I go look at the data center? And the answer was always no. Right? And it doesn't matter who you are. The answer is no. You can't go look at the data center. And that's because they take the security of the data center extremely seriously. And that goes all the way to the point of the hypervisor, right? As a customer, and I'm using VMs as the example, but as a customer, you get access to the virtual machine at like the remote access level. Everything past that is the cloud provider, and there's nothing you can do to change it or to modify it. Conversely, the cloud provider has no ability to control what you are doing with that virtual machine. So I'll give an easy example. Let's say you could literally spin up a Windows instance with a administrator user of like administrator and password, right? And someone will crack that very quickly and start using it to mine Bitcoin or doing some other nefarious activity. That's not the cloud provider's fault. That's you as the user. In fact, the cloud provider has no way of knowing that you set your login password to something so easily guessed. And so realistically, it's all about you, the user, being able to control the security of that cloud, as opposed to, and I can assure you, almost no matter who you are, Microsoft does a better job of securing their data center than you do. They have a lot more skin in the game. I mean, you think about it this way, right? And let's take AWS as an example. If there's some breach at AWS where like everybody's customer data is exposed, right? There's some hole left open, like it's kind of game over for AWS. All of a sudden, Azure becomes the #1 cloud provider, and AWS is like this distant second run overnight. So they can't afford to have that happen. They have a lot riding on it. And the one last thing I'd say about it is that one consideration that you have to have about security, especially if you're like the CISO level, is that it's not all the same thing. People like to say the cloud is just someone else's computer. That's a vast oversimplification of the cloud. Is self-service, multi-tenant, managed services. So you take something like object storage, right, like Azure Blob Store or S3 or AWS S3. Those are managed object stores, and truthfully, you don't really have a lot to do with the management of those. Those are management services, and they both have an awful lot of switches on them and dials. And if you don't configure those things correctly, they can end up being quite insecure, because a cloud provider always has to have this balance between easy to use versus secure, and they've got to thread the needle there, right? They can't make it like completely insecure, but on the other hand, they can't make it so locked down that you can't use it. And this is a battle that every security professional is familiar with, right? This concept of, I mean, we can't make it so locked down. Like if you had one of those, I'm sure you've worked with one of these totalitarian security people, right? Where you say like, oh, well, I need to, I put this thing in, it needs to go to the internet to get its patches. Okay, well, where does it have to go, right? do you really have to know that? Can I not enable it to go out like on port 443 of the internet? No. Ask, okay, can you enable it to go everything.microsoft.com? No. I need to know the exact IP address it's going to go to, where it has to get to. It's like, oh my goodness. Or even worse than that, okay, now I'm going to have to fill out a change ticket and have that approved by my colleague. Right? So there's security as the blocker and security as the enabler, and they've got to balance those two things out. I told you before we started this, I could talk your ear off about it, and the hard part will be getting me to shut up about it.
I know you can. I know you can. I know we want to keep it short and sweet for the viewers, and just let them know what you bring to the table. Yeah. I have a lot of people that are in my network that I'm glad they'll have an opportunity to meet you like this, at least initially, and know that if they have any needs around what RunAsCloud does, that they're going to reach out to you. So that's the main thing, is that we all connect and help each other in this market.
That would be great. And realistically, what I'm always hoping to do is kind of spread the knowledge. One thing, I didn't move to Miami for this reason, but one of the reasons why I started RunAsCloud in Miami is that I finally have an opportunity to maybe help the city in some measurable way, and I didn't have that in New York. Right? I mean, let's face it. I mean, I wasn't going to move the needle in New York, right? But maybe I can move the needle a little bit in Miami, at least in some way, where I could say like, okay, I helped with that, and part of that I think is helping bring professional, expert level cloud advice, because I don't think there's quite enough of that in this area, and it's not like I have to be the only one doing it, right? I want to spread it. I want other people to be doing it. And I want to really help move that cloud needle here.
Well, it's good to hear, and we need more people like you out there. That's for sure.
I'm trying.
So again, Nate, I want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank our friend and colleague Hugo Perez. Hugo, you got to come on my show, man. What are you waiting for? Thank Hugo for introducing us. And,
absolutely.
I look forward to working with you here down the road. I have some ideas to share with you offline about some marketing thoughts that I just had as you were speaking about this. So
excellent.
We'll chat about that offline. But for the rest of the people that are out there, thank you for tuning in to Z Talk, and keeping this, I guess, this little project of mine, this little baby of mine going. I really enjoy bringing these type of discussions, to the network, and hope you guys find them of value. And if you want to leave any comments, great. Hit like a lot, and that helps me, so I know it's making an impact. So with that, Nate, thank you again, and to my network, I'll see you the next time. Take care, everybody. Take care, Nate.
Thank you, Henry.
All right. Be safe, my friend.
You too. All right. Bye.